Welcome back to the Season Star rating. We just took a look at Bakugan 2023, known collectively in the community as Bakugan Gen 3 or Bakugan 3.0. This is the reboot of Bakugan. After Bakugan Legends was done, that was it for Gen 2 of Bakugan because someone at Spin Master wanted to capitalize on the restored interest in Beyblade and make Bakugan into Beyblades. And with that disaster of an idea comes a new show for the kids. The series premiered on Netflix in September of 2023, but first on Roblox, and the second half was put up on January 8th, 2024. Literally 6 months after Legends was put up, they quickly hit the reset buttons and start fresh again when they invested so much time and money into Gen 2 and making it into a big deal. But that's getting a bit off track here, otherwise I'd be ranting about the toys again. So Bakugan Gen 3, the show I think was actually really good. It does reuse the same formula that Gen 2 had with the stupid 2-part episode format and the Pokemon style monster fighting, like Dan would yell for Drago to use atomic breath and stuff like that. But I think that Gen 3 with the narrative that they told us was a bit better than Gen 2. So basically the story is Bakugan came to Earth from another galaxy and they become part of human society. I'll try to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but for this part I kinda can't since everything is essential to understand the plot. Since the Bakugan came from VESTROIAN to Earth, they brought some of their culture along with them, which is Bakugan brawling. Not to mention the Bakugan are all separated by species or clans. Faction color is no longer relevant, it's now distinguished by clans now, like insect and mammals and dinos and all that stuff. And Dragonoid wants all the clans to be unified regardless of differences. And that makes the Misfit clan, and the first season practically revolves around the Misfit clan trying to prove that they can be respected and acknowledged as a real clan. It's practically an underdog story, and that's what we follow through the rest of the season. And in the meantime, Drago's rival Nilius and the mask guy V is trying to take over the world. Holy crap, I just hit the microphone there. So it's very simple basic stuff. The first few episodes and so on introduces us and gets us to know our main heroes a little bit, and then it really becomes a bit slice of lifey. Honestly, the first episode really didn't do it for me. It wasn't a great first episode to introduce us to the series because it was a bunch of mindless exposition dump instead of developing the relationship between Dan and Drago. How they became partners just with the snap of a finger just doesn't seem natural to me, but it does pick up as the series goes on, and what I really like about the series is that most of the characters actually go through character arcs. I won't name all of them, but Thundercrunch goes through an amnesia arc, Dan grows and learns how he can be more than a brawler, Mia has to hide who she really is from her parents, and we go through the series experiencing how it affects her mental health, and even Drago has a character arc. Now, this version of Drago, I think it might be the most relatable Dragonoid we've gotten because the series follows him trying to prove his ideology of diversity, of being strong, but along the way we learn that he makes mistakes trying to do the right thing and how he tries to fix those mistakes, and it really made Drago come off as very human while being a dragon. There is just a ton of layers to a lot of the characters, and it makes for an enjoyable experience, and it makes these characters mean something to viewers. Now, the main villain is Nilius, and I think he's a drastic improvement character-wise from Gen 2. He's just this psycho alien warlord that desires complete control over the world, and he's pretty fun. And also the mask guy V, and spoiler warning, he is TC's older brother who wanted to get revenge on the Bakugan because the Bakugan, when they arrived, one of them accidentally killed TC and V's parents and could not stand that Bakugan were welcome to human society despite that disaster. And he is actually a really great character because all of his villain arc revolves around misinterpreting his mom's final words, and all he really wanted was to have justice because him and TC, after their parents died, they were ignored and abandoned. I think he's an incredible villain that is very relatable and done absolutely well. I think that they absolutely crushed it with the villain's writing. So what people mainly look for in this show is the action sequences, and honestly for the most part the action animation is pretty decent. Like, the special attack animations are still there and the human characters still interact with the fight by running and jumping through obstacles to get these things called BAM zones, which can increase a Bakugan's speed, health, and strength when they get touched. And at the beginning the Bakugan have pretty good animation for their fights, like they mix hand-to-hand combat and special attack in the action scenes. One that really stuck to me was Razor doing Taekwondo, and I thought that was pretty cool. But as the series goes on, they actually do less and less of it, probably because the budget was running out. And the rollout animations, they recycle the same 3 animations over and over again. When they use the special attack evolutions, they do a Beyblade collision before opening, and it doesn't even affect the battle of the story. Like, it's literally just there to remind people to go buy their toys in real life. There was one episode where Drago didn't even open because he didn't want to, and in real life that would have been a loss for Dan, but he was just allowed to let it rip again. And in this reboot, they completely recasted the voice cast, which is not uncommon. The voice actors are made up of completely new people. Jason DeLine, who did Drago in the previous incarnations, doesn't do Drago in Gen 3. Instead, it's fellow Legacy alumni Kyle Derrick that does the voice, and I think Kyle absolutely nailed it because they clearly wrote Drago to be completely different from Jason, and Kyle's Drago sounds like his own intended version. Dan is played by Mike Taylor, and he was very good. I think that he's a very good fit for Dan, and you got a lot of newer casts. Some of them, this is their first time that voice acting actually, like Safira Bukasa as Griffin, Desmond Sivan as Thundercrunch, Kaya Kaneshiro as Mia, and they are really good. Kaya Kaneshiro especially did an absolutely phenomenal job as Mia, and it's surprising that it's her first ever voice role, yet she sounds like she's been doing it for years. Mia by far was one of the better characters in this gen, with such a relatable and emotional story, and she kicks ass and has probably the best looking Bakugan Ventry. And Ventry is based, by the way. Ventry is awesome. If Dan and Drago didn't end up returning in this gen, Mia and Ventry would be awesome main leads. And it really seemed like the writing really focused on her a lot and kind of left Dan in the dust for a little bit. And actually, some actors from the Gen 2 reboot came back to voice new characters. Jason DeLine doesn't voice Drago, but he's cast as Razor instead. Jonah Weinberg, who voiced Dan in Gen 2, is his brawler Rip. Julius Cho, who voiced Magnus, is now Jay, who is the brawler for Penji, the Kabo of this gen. Yeah, no, Penji sucks and I hate him. Overall, the voice acting slaps and the cast really tried their best. Kaya Kaneshiro as Mia, Ali Badsha as V, and Alan Turner as Nilius were the ultimate highlights for me. Even though the lip sync is a bit of a struggle like in the previous gen, that's mainly the dialogue writer's issue. That was the sweets of it, but now I gotta feed you the veggies. This show does have a few problems, the main thing being the pacing of it. Some of the story arcs that they deliver turn out to be just padding in order to fill the runtime because they aren't written like it was actually holding weight or something. Like some examples, V's tournament arc was a gigantic waste of time, and the only thing that saved it was it helping Mia's character arc. That was literally its whole purpose. The tournament had no actual structure to it, it was so confusing to follow along, and V had no reason to do the tournament in the first place. The Bakugan got neutralized with their powers and then V just gave them back, but he had to make the Bakugan fight and win the powers back. The reason gave for doing the tournament was to find the strongest Bakugan to brainwash, which was Ventry, but then V got the other clan's Bakugan and brainwashed them anyway, which is what he should have done in the first place. The whole neutralizer and tournament arc was literally to pad out the runtime, which is nuts because the show was only given 26 episodes. When Drago infiltrated V's base, he did absolutely nothing. Nilius just spills out all the entire brainwashing process just like that, and we get the plot twist. He was in there to save Ventry and Extractor, but he just rolls up and leaves. Like, there was no point in that story. The character Chip is a huge waste of space and a big mistake. Literally, there's no reason for his character other than to piss you off and not in the way they intended. Chip is supposed to be like some comic relief villain, but he's not funny or capable. He's just really annoying, and he slows the story down. I'm so glad he dies, even if it is a Disney death. Some of the jokes don't really land that well, like there was one scene at the beginning of the series when Bakugan Brawling got banned, Dan and Griffin are having a serious talk and all of a sudden they're just joking about celery, or when TC got memory flashbacks and Dan is all of a sudden joking about pizza. Like, I get adding comedy to it, but when it got scenes that are meant to be serious, they get shoehorned in and it really drags the scene down whenever they do that, in my opinion. They're trying to mix comedy with drama and action and sci-fi and other things, and it can be very hit or miss sometimes. Hammerhead went from just saying eat meat to actually saying words. That was never built on and it came out of nowhere. I thought that was weird. And like I said before, the two-part episode format that they did in the previous gen is actually reused for this show, and honestly, I hate that crap. The way the show has been written, it would have benefited if they went full 22-minute episodes. 80% of the time, the episode just keeps going and have no reason to have them be separated by two parts, having the title cards interrupt the scenes every time. Some say it's because of network broadcasting stuff, but I think it's because they can't get out of the Cartoon Network formula that the out-of-touch executives push for. Don't get me wrong, there are actually a couple of times in this show that they take advantage of the two-part thing, like Mia and Ventry fighting Raven and Flame, but in the first part, we see that Griffin and Dan were breaking into into illusion tech while she was doing that. So I think that that was fine. They show that they can do it, just the narrative that they want to tell prevents it. But regardless, those are all relatively minor nitpicks I have with the show in comparison to the good things about it. It's absolutely not a terrible show at all by any means, but it's not the greatest either. So plugging Bakugan Gen 3 into the season star rating system, I'm giving this a good 8 out of 10. The show has a really great story with thought-provoking political undertones mixed in with great action and slice of life stuff. Character development is great. Mia is definitely the best part of this reboot. Voice performances were great, though you might want to work on the news reporter guy a little bit. And action is what you'd expect from a Bakugan show. But I think they could still benefit from focusing on tone a little bit and pacing the story to where it doesn't feel forced. But I do recommend giving this show a shot. The theme song as well slaps. Sugar High Bunny Punch did the theme song for Gen 2 and they came back to do this one and it is awesome. So definitely check out Bakugan Gen 3, and if you have, let me know what your thoughts are on this show and what score you would give it in the comments down below. Support BakuTalk by pressing the thumbs up and give us a subscribe for more awesome Bakugan content. I've been Haru Ren, thank God for Rapid Fire, and Ventry is based. Bye!